What's up, guys? We're going to be going over how to evaluate early stage startups. And admittedly, I'm going to try and make this as digestible as possible. So with that being said, cue the intro. All right, guys, as we know, early stage startups are companies that don't have that much history, not that much financials, not that much indicators if it could fail or succeed. But I'm going to go over some key areas that I've used in my prior experiences analyzing startups, whether at Musa Capital, deal sourcing, the fund of funds that I help out with, and my various experiences in the venture capital space to maybe give you a framework. Now, I won't make this too dense. I'm going to make this a 30,000 foot view, but here's stuff that you need to look for. First, we're going to start with the teams and founders, which in my personal opinion, I think that this is one of the more overlooked ones. Now, no matter what sector that you're looking at, no matter what vertical and what stage in the early stage, pre-seed, seed, series A, you have to make sure you have a solid founding team. And what a bad example would be is a bunch of college students that just put together a napkin idea for world-changing technology. But a good example would be, for example, when you're looking at the founding team, one, look at the prowess and the expertise. Is it applicable? If you're building a software solution, you shouldn't have somebody that did, I don't know, 20 years in masonry trying to make the next good software application. Something along the lines of spending 20 plus years at Microsoft, or maybe being like the CTO of various other startups that were successful could really go a long way. So essentially, for every position, make sure that they have good experience, good leverage, and make sure that it's a subject matter expert per se that is building out the startup. So next, we're going to go over market opportunity. Now, there's a lot of layers of the onion here, but I'm going to make this as brief as possible, and I'll probably make technical evaluations a whole nother video. So essentially what this is, right, is the startup going to be addressing a problem in the market that is wanted? Some good things to be looking out for, right? I'm just going to put these definitions on the screen because I'll show you how to calculate these later in another video. So one, you want to look at the total addressable market. Is the market large enough? And the serviceable addressable market, the market that you actually want to be targeting, and various things that lead to what's called market segmentation and all these other things. Now, there's a lot of VCs that say, okay, now you need to target the chunk of the serviceable addressable market to something that you can actually capture, and I think that is brilliant. So with that being said, if it fits these criteria, then you need to make sure that there's accurate representation of what the founder's trying to capture. If they're trying to tell you that they can capture the whole market of the world, that is unrealistic expectations, and that should be looked at very scrupulously. So next is going to be going over product and technology, and essentially you're aiming for what is called problem solution fit. Does the problem effectively solve a real world issue? And next, you want to go over scalability. Once you found out it solves this real world issue, can you scale it, or will it literally fizzle out at the peak? Now, in early stage startups, there's some ways to kind of uncover how this works, right? And if a startup's had what's called a minimal viable product, which essentially they test the market and receive results, then you know that at least there's a need in the market, and at least there's a way to solve a real world problem. Now, scalability is a little bit more tricky. You would want to do what's called a SWOT analysis, and you would want to do a competitive analysis to see if similar ideas can be scalable and if this is an exception to the rule or not. So yeah, next we're going to go over the business model that they proposed, or maybe they have a little bit of traction into the Series A. Revenue streams. What are the primary ways that they generate revenue, right? If they're just putting all their eggs in one basket and all these other things, that could possibly be a bad deal. Now, a good example of revenue streams would be B2B, business to business, B2B to C, business to business and to consumer, like with apps and all these other things, D2C, direct to consumer. And you know, there's a million other ways as well, but normally if they're putting all their eggs in one basket, that's a really bad idea. So financials, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. And guys, if you go to my valuation episode, you're going to hear some similar terms, right? So one of the biggest ones you want to look for in an early stage startup is runway. How long can this startup operate before needing more funding? If they put in their plan or in their pitch deck that they're coming to you to increase the runway when they're at zero, that's bad. They have not forecasted long enough out, and it hurts their ability to scale. So essentially across the board, you know, anywhere between 12 and 28 months of runway before applying for venture capital funding is normally a good sign. You do not want to see that they're using your funding to solely keep the lights on, because they wouldn't be able to manage things things like research and development and all these other things. So just look out for that. Next is going to be revenue projections, right? Now in the early stage, this is very hard to do, but if they're putting numbers out there saying that they're going to 10x every single year, that means that they don't have accurate, realistic expectations for the market and their sales, by the way. So let's go over traction, right? So as I mentioned before in the MVP, with traction, this is literally results of you getting going, right? So look at everything. Beta launches, MVP was the feedback that they were getting, needed and wanted. Were they getting recurring streams of revenue? Were they getting customers coming back? Were they having good NPS scores? Were they getting good user retention, not losing people? All these things you have to analyze and kind of look at through key performance indicators, either through beta launch, customer discoveries, all these other things. Take what you literally get. Next is going to be competitive landscape, right? Who are the main competitors? And the main thing you want to look at is how are they differentiating them from the people that they're competing with? If they're trying to solve the same problems with a similar solution, it might not be advantageous to go after. And last is going to be mitigation, right? How are they managing risk, right? What are the risks to the market? For example, if you're dealing with a real scientific startup that involves a lot of research, you might have a market penetration type of risk. Same thing with barrier to entry risk. And you have a bunch of other risks that may appear as you scale as well, for like being capital intensive. Does your technology get more expensive if time goes on? So so these are just some of the learnings that I've had, and I hope this really helps you when analyzing early stage startups, and I'll see you on the next one.